Welcome to another Forza Horizon 6 video. Today I got a few more custom tracks for you guys, made by yours truly. What can I say? Despite everything, I still enjoy and am quite addicted to track making. So 3 more tracks, starting with one on dirt. This is Sekibe Dirt Track Extended, basically using most of the roads around here. And yeah, the share code is already on screen. I'll also be putting it into the video description. Let's just jump right in. And while I restricted it to some rally car themes, inside that theme is pretty much open, so any class goes, any kind of tuning you want to do. I think I'm gonna go with something A-class would be nice. This one should do. So yeah, this is one of the things I had planned out for quite a while. I just wanted to have a different dirt track layout that uses more of the roads around there. And what I came up with is a bit more on the squiggly side, with a lot of back and forth, complex corner follow-up things without many straights, but I think it's still quite enjoyable. The AI might be a bit of a problem here and there. We're gonna have to see how well it works. The problem really is the first 2 corners. So yeah, sometimes they just run into the booth over here, sometimes they completely demolish the tire stack right there, but from that point on it's all pretty good, and once they sort themselves out in the second lap onwards, they should be much better here. So let's enjoy the track a bit. It's gonna be a bit of carnage and stuff being a bit chaotic, but should be alright. And yeah, there are some curbs here and there to prevent people from going too much onto the side of the track. There's one thing I don't really like about how Forza Horizon does the checkpoints, and that is keeping most of the insides open. The problem here is that it invites cheating the checkpoints a bit, which I'm fine with, but really you end up playing chicken with the checkpoint, trying to get as far on the inside as allowed. And then sometimes when you miss the checkpoint after all, you just lose heavily. So yeah, the game encourages trying to cut the checkpoint as far as possible, but once you go a tiny bit too far, the punishment is very severe. So I've been trying to keep the checkpoints a bit wider, but keep people from going all the way on the inside with actual apex props, walls, etc. Really depends on the situation. I wouldn't say that I got the perfect solution every time, far from it. I think some of the stuff should maybe get revised here and there, but overall I like this approach a bit more than what the base game offers. But I'm trying to make the curbs not too tough, too punishing. But yeah, they should keep you from going there. I just want them to be a bit more of a softer punishment than you basically forfeiting the entire race when you get a bit too far on the inside and consequently miss a checkpoint. But yeah, the AI over here, as per usual, not being the best on dirt, but I think they do quite okay. It's tough figuring out a good route through here, especially when you also have to place the checkpoints at the same time. But yeah, I think the route kinda works out. It is also very tough to get an idea on what would be the ideal line for how the AI races, because we are not going into slides and everything. I could have definitely gone for a later apex on that corner. I think the way I take it during races is quite different from what the line suggests, so that's a bit of a letdown. And I was also considering maybe doing something about the first part here. I could maybe put a wall in front of that booth there to just get any AI that comes on there and just push them back onto the track. That might work. Careful. But I was also considering maybe going for a slightly different route there to begin with. There's this concrete platform near the regular start finish of the track, and I could go through there instead and avoid the tight double hairpin thing. But overall, despite these minor issues, I think the track is still a lot of fun. The AI, if you really push hard, is a bit of a pushover. I don't know if I could make it much better. I think overall they do perform not quite as good as I would like them to, but I'm not sure how much I could change about it. Also, I don't fully know how it would work if I update the route. If it can just override the same events, still keep the same sharecode and everything. Because then making changes wouldn't be too difficult, but from what I've seen, the entire behavior of the event lab is a bit weird. I once had an event where I updated the route a bit more, and when I tried to publish the whole thing, instead of showing me where to save the event, it showed me text saving, which is a different list, and I don't know. The whole game seems to run on spaghetti code. And it's nowhere more obvious than with how poorly the event lab is working out. But yeah, quite a few of the AI fell behind. Some of them are keeping up with me in some capacity, which funnily enough are both metros. I don't know if it's just a meta AI car in this class and racing type. That wasn't good. I should have gone for later apex. The racing line there looks a bit weird, but it's actually not that bad. We gotta go very far to the outside and then cut across in order to get a good line through there. And yeah, with how the regular track is laid out and having some cones to block off the other potential connections, of course you're gonna have to go through the cones for this track here. Sadly we can't remove them, so there isn't too much I could do about it. Okay, final lap. And that's unfortunate. I mean, if I had the barrier there to push the guy back onto the track, I would have pushed him right into myself here. So I don't know if that's the way to go. But yeah, this is overall, in my opinion, still a very enjoyable layout. Just fun to drive on. Yeah, the concrete part that I talked about, that's actually the part behind that barrier there. A slightly elevated platform, really for prepping to go onto the track, the pit area, etc. I don't know if the lines through would be too great if I were to choose that. I would also get rid of a decent straight where we currently have a start-finish. So, yeah. I think it might just be better left as is. Yeah, here we go, that's the first race pretty much done. And this is also really indicative of the kind of racing you can have on this track. I think it's pretty fun. I love me some dirt racing in this game. Not quite as much as I like the regular racing, but for a change of pace and everything, this is still a good thing to have every now and again. So yeah, some rallycross tracks or full-on rally tracks like this, love them. Yeah, the payment for this isn't quite as good. I think I get for a 2 to 3 minute trial race that gives me twice as much money. So these are never going to be great for money making unless you have some exploits in there. But let's check out the second race. This is actually coming in 2 variations. This is Hokubu Circuit Extended. So kind of in the same vein as the one we just did. But this is actually using quite a few regular roads beside the track. Comes in 2 variations. I got asked to make one that's set to anything goes. But anything goes, in my opinion, is just a really... It's not a fun theme for racing, so I prefer the one with total supercars. But yeah, class on here is still open as per usual. I would maybe like to go with S1 here. Yeah, we can take the Elise. I think that's gonna be a decent choice. And yeah, this is also a track that has a little custom road section to get off the permanent track to the road. There are some usually smaller roads leading in and out of the permanent racetrack, but the only one that I found could really be used for racing here is this one. So I needed another exit. Again, trying to have the apex kinda being protected by some other props there. So you don't really want to go for the actual checkpoint marker, just gonna stay on the track. I don't know why the AI sometimes gets stuck there. The thing that I use there, I might maybe go into photo mode on the next lap. This is something that I do with all of my barriers when they are too close to the racing line. Give them a saw blade pattern so that people can't really go for the edge that would catch them. I'll explain it more on the next lap. But yeah, here we are on the custom part. And onto the regular road we go. It's not smooth if you actually stay on the road, where there is the little gutter area that I put in to extend it a little bit, but that's a bit rougher. But yeah, this is a track where I really tried out different potential curbs. Figuring out a good way to handle apexes in this game, I think, is quite important to make good tracks here. Again, the way it's handled by the base game routes, not exactly a fan of that. You know what, let me quickly show you guys what I mean here. So if you check the barriers, you will see that if you go in from the other side, there is always this little edge sticking out. But from the direction that you actually go in, the barrier in front of it protects you from hitting that. So that means if you hit the barrier, it should just fling you off a little bit in that direction. But yeah, you don't run into the potential issue of hitting the sharp edge head on, and that would actually completely slow you down and wreck your car. So yeah, these barriers should be absolutely safe to touch. It's something that I've already done quite a few times in GTA Online. It was kind of a standard back in the day to some degree. And that's how you prevent your car from getting stuck and getting completely wrecked when you dare to hit the barrier. And yeah, the same is true over here. But I've seen the AI have some issues and actually get caught on some of these, so I don't know. I think I've done this quite extreme with some of the edges over here with how much the other one sticks out. But yeah, it's better than just relying on the snapping, because when you end up with walls that look smooth, but if you actually go up to them, there is a chance they will just have you get snagged on them. Okay, here we go back onto the custom section. And yeah, I tried also decorating it a bit to make it look alright. I think overall the layout is working quite well. We got some faster sections, we got some sharp and tricky corners. Maybe a few too many hairpins. I could have maybe gone without this one, but from the pacing it felt alright right there. And yeah, despite there not being too much added, I think the overall tag length is also in a really good sweet spot, just above the 2-minute marker. I mean, from this point on it would have been very easy to extend it into all sorts of different directions and make this a 3, 4, 5 minute long lap. But I think just having a somewhat limited out of tag region, as the street sector being kept a bit short, works out overall. And yeah, I always love when games allow you to do that. Have a combined circuit and street layout, and all it needs is having 2 usable roads going in and out of the track, or in this case making one yourself. There is an actual road below what I built there, but it's a bit too narrow, more like a 1-lane road. I was also considering maybe going onto the parking area there, but in the end I stuck with this. That even paved over some of the other parts there towards the end. That area wasn't too bad in any way, but there were some cones there that I just wanted to build over, just to keep the whole thing a bit wider. And yeah, I know I haven't done the best job at trying to keep up with the AI over here. They have basically run away from me. But yeah, showing a good race isn't really the purpose here. I think I maybe have also messed up the approach there with the braking zone. It really should be further on the outside. But yeah, that's once again, somebody got stuck there. A bit of a sacrifice you have to make when trying to place your checkpoints precisely. Here we come back around. I would have liked to actually use the regular starting grid from the command track over here, but I don't know how I would have made that work. I had some other idea where I actually used the regular track until the start-finish state and went out the other path there. Didn't really work out for me. Like, there is this little thing that's marked as a dirt road, and that could have been an exit as well, but it's way too narrow and there's also a lot of trees there, so I can't even make it wider by building over it. So it didn't work out, and also the attempt that I had at that, there was just way too much going on in the sector after it. It was like, you do the sharp last turn of the regular track, then you go into a harsh left, slightly right-hand turn, and then just left, right, and I think another left here, and yeah, it didn't feel good. I think the pacing is much better as it is with what it ended up being. But yeah, this is Hokubu Track Extended. Fun event in my opinion. Bit tougher to beat than the off-road one. But yeah, overall good fun, about 8-minute race with S1, which is alright. On to the last one. And if you watched my last track video, then you should already know the layout. Because yeah, the last track that I finished is actually one that I showed off already in a work in progress state. Let's get over to Highwy Star. Which is another event that has two variations because of the whole anything goes thing. I can show you the anything goes part here and yeah, talk about why I think it's kinda garbage. But it's the only one that lets you do the event with whatever car you want, so yeah, it just gives you garbage opponents. But yeah, this is a fast track around the highway in one of the plains with a lot of fields, etc. Really nice scenery and overall works out quite well. We can still use the same car, so might as well do that. And then see what the game confronts us with in terms of opponents. And yeah, it should be a lot of classic cars, which absolutely not fitting for the power rating and theme over here. If we look at the starting grid, okay, we got a 99 Elise, BMW M4, which is alright. Some more modern cars, Toyota 2000 GT, Lancia Stratos. I'm usually seeing a lot of 300 SLs, older Porsches, older Ferraris, etc. in here. So it's a completely unthemed bag of wonders in here. Chevy Bel Air. No matter how you tune it, it shouldn't really keep up with a car like this. But it's all just scaled up in a weird way that makes it work regardless. And yeah, I wish I could set the theme to take whatever the player car is from, so that it's all somewhat matching. But yeah, that's currently sadly not an option. Going around in a circle over here. This section worked out way better than I expected. Both in terms of the kind of corner that you have to go through here, but also how the AI handled the whole thing. And it's really just there because I thought without something at that point, the straight part was going a bit too long. I mean, this is a high-paced race at the end of the day, but it's a bit of a compromise. Coming around to towards the end of the lap here, when I get back on the highway at some point. The Bel Air shouldn't be able to keep up with me in any regard here. Maybe on the straight, but it should never have the handling in the corners. Coming around to another hairpin and back on the highway we go. Once we get through this turn, which is also such a nice carousel turn. Just good banking, good corner radius and everything. That's really nice to wind up and then slingshot across the highway. Don't know why that car is sinking into the ground that much. A little chicane here because we actually need to be on the left side. Completely missed the upshift. Don't know how one of the cars got below the track, but that's a free position and I'm gonna take it. Oops. Yeah, that happens when you hit the apex head on. There are a few things I'm still considering about the track, especially with some of the faster corners. I laid out some curbs for people to hopefully stay away from, but on the other side we got some harder props, so I'm not entirely happy with that, like stuff like this over here. And maybe I want to keep the props on the inside a bit further away from the track itself. If you go onto the curb, there isn't too much space between that and hitting the wall there. Same with this right here. I think the curbs keep they do a good job at keeping you on the track and repelling you from going too far on the inside. But it's definitely possible, especially with a high downforce car, to just flick the steering wheel a bit too much and just go head on into the wall. I don't really want to punish people that harshly. So some of the finer details still need to be figured out, but I think overall this is on kind of a decent path already. I should have gone further on the inside there. And yeah, going from the long left-hander that narrows down, opens up again, and then goes right into the hairpin into this turn. This is one of the key features of the track that got me to make this one to begin with. Same with the right hand turn down there, it's just such a nice banking. So there are some highlight parts in the regular track layout, and that's what I built the rest of it around. Since we don't have any more on and off ramps apart from the other direction here, I had to go with something custom here. Used to be very different to start out with, but in the end I think this is not a bad way to go. I don't think I'll be using that bank turn too often, but for this track it's a match made in heaven, or more like a match made in event lab. Maybe go a bit further on the inside, then go to the outside, try to cut back, didn't have the turning radius for that. But yeah, there's definitely some lines through there that you can optimize. But yeah, the other version of the track is only different in that it features some limit to the other vehicles. I think it's just track day cars. So anything from track toys to hypercars to potentially some of the supercars. I think this Elise might also be eligible there. And yeah, I think theming like that is important, even though practically it only changes what the other cars look like, because we are still going to drive like this with how the AI performance stuff works. But it's not gonna put you up against cars that couldn't conceivably be on your power level. I mean, this one is a nice one, at least with a decent livery and everything. But most of what I find here is just lessens the experience of being on the track. Yeah. Should have been a bit more aggressive on the second part there. And now the Bel Air is trying its luck, forget about it. But yeah, I recently made a suggestion on the feedback forum about handling the whole AI car performance thing differently. Basically, I would like them to scale a bit more in a way that still keeps their regular performance similar, or more like the characteristics. If you have a car, especially in like the Colossus hypercar race, that can't go 400 kilometers per hour, but you enter with your Hennessy Venom that can go 450, 460, whatever, and the other car can suddenly keep up, that's unrealistic bullshit and I don't enjoy that. Yeah, car scaling has to be a thing to get the AI up to whatever you're driving, but it should still keep in mind the basic characteristics of what that car can perform like. And here we go. Getting back to the end of the track here. Final lap. Originally I didn't want to put this to winter, but especially that little custom loop that I put in there. Winter is the only season that pulls the grass and make sure it doesn't stick through the track that much. There's still a few minor parts here and there that didn't get cold, but in the end it's far better than the other seasons. So yeah, winter is the best look for this track. Even if the custom grass patch there is still not white or anything. I could have maybe replaced it with snow as well, but just didn't. Okay, but yeah, this is the third track. I'll put all the share codes in the description with some descriptive thing about what they are, so you don't just end up going with the wrong one. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me for this video. I hope you enjoyed. As I said before in the other trial video, with how the event lab works out right now, especially with the restrictions in terms of what you can do with an event, not being able to let the player who uses the event customize it freely with the amount of laps, the seasons, the car themes, etc. It feels so restrictive that every time I make another event, it's just always gonna be an unsatisfying compromise. So yeah, that part is kind of annoying, and I'm not entirely sure how to best deal with it. So currently I'm more in an avoidance phase and not sure if I want to publish other tracks until all of that is being dealt with. If it ever gets dealt with to begin with. But yeah, not liking how Event Lab is being handled right now. So not sure how much more I'll do in terms of track creating. Gonna have to wait and see until later. Wait for a few updates on the game and then go from there. So yeah, thanks for watching. No promises on future content from this point out. There isn't anything I have planned out, and we'll just have to wait and see what the game does. If I find something interesting, I'll make a video on it, otherwise, well, gonna have to wait a bit longer. Anyways, as always, have a good one, and bye bye.